Getting back to our origin of we the people. Tackling current issues, both political and legal, with common sense. As we the people, we must bring common sense back to make our lives better. Only on Now Media TV.
The debate over transgender participation in women's sports. Highly disappointed. History. Title IX was enacted in 1973. That was to not only protect and grant that women should have the right to scholarships and to sporting events, but also for equal access to enrollment in colleges. 1973. And I'm going to talk to the Gen Zs and some millennials. That was only 52 years ago that women were given equal access to university and given the right to have our own sports. Why am I starting this segment off with this? Because the Senate Democrats blocked the GOP, hypocritically wearing pink, the women wearing pink in solidarity of women's rights. But no! What women's rights? All they've been doing is trying to destroy every aspect of we, the women, biological women, have to equal access to university, to equal access to safe and productive sporting events so that we can have our teams. But no, the Senate Democrats blocked the GOP-led bill to ban transgender athletes from women's sports. They voted unanimously. Unanimously. We only needed 60 senators, 7 Democratic senators to go along and allow the vote. It wasn't even voting on the actual bill. It was allowing it to go on the floor. They filibustered it and killed it. These are your Democratic leaders that are supposed to be preserving your rights, women. Wake up. This is not the party protecting our rights. They are destroying everything that they can to impede women's rights. We are being erased. And by the way, this is a losing proposition. This is a losing position for the Democrats. And yes, I am angry about it because I don't know where the feminists are from the 70s. I wasn't part of that movement. I know some people who were because I was not around in that time. But yet, hey, do some history. Open it up. Don't just rely on ChatGPT. Open up some history books. Google it. The outcome means the legislation, which passed the House in January, with some Democrats voting in favor of it, mirrors an executive order issued by Donald Trump when he was surrounded famously by all those young athletes, those girl athletes. It won't go any further. The failed vote is likely to become a political talking point, and honestly, it should be for the midterm elections. A New York Times poll conducted in January found broad opposition to transgender athletes in asking respondents whether transgender female athletes, which are basically men, they're male. They may be identifying as female. They are male. They have gone through the hormonal change, the puberty. They are stronger, everything. Should they be a part of biological girl sports? In response, 79% of American adults, 79% of we the people, and 67% of Democrats, registered Democrats, said they should not be allowed. Proponents of the bill argued that it was necessary to ensure fair competition, protect the integrity of women's athletics, and also for the safety of young girls playing these sports. Ask Pam, that was acknowledged in the State of the Union. A young girl, a high school volleyball player that has had catastrophic injuries, including catastrophic brain injuries, because a transgender athlete spiked a ball into her face. Opponents, which are the Democrats, these progressive Democrats that have held on and are continuing to hold on to this issue, contended that such legislation discriminates against these transgender individuals and undermines principles of inclusivity. And it isn't just that big of a deal. Really? How would you feel when your daughter, Your high school daughter's admitted into the hospital and now has irreparable brain damage because of this. At least 900 medals. They like to say that, oh, well, it's only a few transgender uh, athletes. It's no big deal. Well, it is on the big grand scheme, because when you have these girls that are starting out in swimming at a young age and putting all their efforts, or in track and everything, and they're trying to get into medals, and they're trying to get into the Olympics, and they're trying to get scholarships. It's not just, oh, there's a few. No. At least 900 medals that belong to women have gone to men just over the past years of men. Oh, and most of these men have failed at the sport running against other men. They're not even the top tier of their men. So you're having someone who's placed like 280 in the country of men swimmers, but now they're number one. When you have a long jumper, trans athlete, won the gold medal at the collegiate levels, like national championship, and his jump was 8 feet further than the second place female. That is unfair. I also challenge the Democratic leadership to state that this isn't a big issue to Peyton McNabb, that same young woman that I was talking about. And here's something interesting to show that this isn't the issue for Democrats to die on the Hill on. But you know what? Continue fighting this fight. You're going to lose. Gavin Newsom, yes, Governor Gavin Newsom, who at one point was the leader of the progressive movement, the face of the progressive movement, breaks with fellow Democrats on transgender students in girls' sports, calling it a fundamental issue of fairness. So Governor Newsom started a new podcast, and he's still seen as a potential White House hopeful in 2028. His remarks were an extraordinary break from fellow Democrats and signaled a newly defensive position on the issue. Now, what's interesting is there was another individual Democrat, and I think it was in Wisconsin, Michigan, that they actually had protests against him. But Governor Gavin Newsom, embarking on his personal post-mortem of the failures of his Democratic Party, suggested this week that the participation of transgender athletes in women's sports was deeply unfair. Really? So maybe this is hope. But again, is this Governor Newsom trying to show that he's moderate? He understands the people and where the issues are, because he does have eyes on the White House? The comments by Mr. Newsom, who has backed LGBTQ causes for decades and was one of the first American elected officials to officiate same-sex weddings, represented a remarkable break from other top Democrats on the issue and signaled a newly defensive position. Mr. Newsom spent much of his conversation with Mr. Kirk, a very conservative individual who went around the college universities, very pro-Trump, reflecting on the myriad ways that former Vice President Kamala Harris' campaign failed to reach key voters during the 2024 election, losing ground with young people, men, and Hispanic voters. But his most significant revelation on his podcast, which was released on Thursday morning, came when Mr. Kirk pressed the California governor to agree with him that it was unfair for transgender women to compete in women's sports. I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. Mr. Newsom said, it is an issue of fairness. It's deeply unfair to allow this to continue. He also acknowledged the effectiveness of Mr. Trump's signature campaign ad, which declared Kamala is for they, them, President Trump is for you. Now, he admitted that this was devastating. To quote Mr. Newsom, she didn't even react to it, which was even more devastating because they couldn't. How could the Democrats, when they are putting all of their eggs in this completely identity politics, transgender, shoving it down our throats movement? I will support somebody who is transitioning. I personally know of friends and distant family members who have children that are transitioning, and absolutely, I will respect it. You know what? I respect Caitlyn Jenner. And I will call her she. But I will not ever say, oh, a transgender female, someone who identifies as a female, who still has all of the twigs and berries body parts of a male, plus the muscular, the skeletal, the the strength and everything advantages, should be playing in female sports, in biological female sports. Create a separate category for these individuals. Let them compete among themselves. That is fair. But don't do it against young girls. And don't do it at the expense of their health and their safety and out of abundance of fairness. And on top of that, read the room. You have almost 80% of we the people saying we do not want this. It is an issue that needs to be stopped. But one thing for sure is, shame on you, Democrats. Shame on you for wearing pink and not standing up to acknowledge this young girl. Shame on you for wearing pink and then for killing any hopes of protecting girls and girls sports. And shame on you for trying to destroy Title IX. Destroy it and taken away. The only one who's attacking or trying to take away the rights of females, of women, are the Democrats. Yes, the abortion issue was a major thing. And you know what? Ironically, the only senator that stood up and said, okay, I want to propose a bill that allows federally, that legalize abortion up to 15 weeks. And they were shot down by both sides. But it's up to the states. And abortion is still accessible in the vast majority of states. That's not the key issue. That is just one minute issue. When you are trying to strip away Title IX protections that women shall have, the right to be able to equal access to scholarships for sports teams, and equal access to university, that is the issue. We, the people, will not stand for this. And we, the people, need to start making our voices heard even more so against these Democratic leaders and other leaders that will not abide by the fact and protect our daughters and our future granddaughters and our nieces. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and I will try to cool down a little bit on this issue.